Okay.
All right. All right. Well, nice to see you again, Levi.
Nice to see you.
So you filled out your informed consent form. So I'm just going to review all these boxes with you to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So again, I am a GCU counseling student, um, and you consent to being videotapes, both video and audio recordings. These are for mock sessions. These recordings will be used to aid in the growth of counseling skills and knowledge. You sign that you consent to the excerpts from these recordings or descriptions of them being used by GCU faculty and staff for the purposes of supervision, research, and or teaching. You understand that any part of a conversation that is recorded and or written down will be kept confidential. You will not disclose any information that may identify you in the mock counseling session recordings. The information that you will provide will be fictional. Um, you understand that Zoom will be used to record counseling sessions and that Zoom meets both HIPAA and FERPA confidentiality standards, and that you understand that if the recording of the mock session um, at the recording of the mock session that if it activates any suicidal ideation or other potentially harmful thoughts, that you will reach out to a professional in your area immediately. Neither GCU, the college, nor the counseling student will be held accountable if you harm yourself. And so, yeah, you signed everything. So let's just go ahead and get started. What brings you to counseling today?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit today kind of about being an artist and kind of creating things and figuring out my identity and this like passion versus business mindset because I love what I do, but I don't have to do it as a full-time job. So I love creating art, but I want to create a side business where I can sell and profit off of my art and kind of build a community and grow as an artist in that way. But I feel very held to a certain degree with the expectation of is what I create for myself and as my hobby worth the money I'm selling it for? And am I annoying the people around me that like what I do by constantly advertising or kind of sometimes feeling like I shove my business that I'm trying to start up in their faces because I do need as a small artist their support, but I don't want people to feel like I have only just created community to sell to people. That makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. So you're an artist. You're looking to sort of branch out, start your own business, and there are a lot of aspects of that ambition that you're kind of concerned about, especially when it comes to how your art or yourself or how your art business is perceived by like other people. Would you say
Totally,
that's right?
totally, yeah. Because it weighs in on like if I make something and I'm like, I love this piece, but I can tell that it wouldn't look good on Instagram or it wouldn't get reactions well enough. And it's, I mean, a series of things that are out of my control, but that crazy fear that kind of stops me or limits my work sometimes is what is the issue.
Okay, so you acknowledge that there are some things that are out of your control, especially in regards to social media content, whether people like it or not, whether they're able to relate with it.
Definitely, I can't control all of
Right. Okay, so you can't control all of that.
that. That's fair. I mean, so what do I do in the sense of I know that the worst that could happen is I post something and basically it either no one sees it or it gets a bad review. Um, how I guess as an artist, I'm trying to figure out what is the best way for me to dig in and find a message. I don't expect a clear paved answer for this because this is my own journey to that answer. But how do I find a clear way to communicate to my audience or to my community that I am doing this out of the artistry rather than out of profiting or being like a financial profiteer rather than like I want them to know it comes from the heart.
Right. So then how do you reach out to like this specific audience in a way that is authentic and not so much in a way where they might perceive your efforts as just like a money grab?
Mhm. I've thought about giving away things for free,
Hmm.
having that kind of start the ball of momentum of like showing people that I care. But I'm also in a place where everything I do outside of profit is costing me money. So I even though this isn't my full time business, like I sometimes feels like I'm not taking a step forward when I'm creating or when I'm doing those extra efforts because it does still cost me things. So the intangible things like growing an online community doesn't really show itself as much as spending money shows itself in a bank account, if
Right,
that
right,
makes sense.
right. So it's like in the immediate sense, you're pretty concerned with like the financial cost of it, whereas
Mhm,
to sort of get what it is that you want, that target audience engagement, you would have to sort of spend money
mhm,
and almost what it sounds like make an investment that may not pay
mhm,
off immediately.
definitely. And that also just made me think is like it's not just my idea of how well my messaging or my art reacts to this whole situation. I think I'm also carrying the weight of the finances of trying to start a business and sell things. That way, it's like a network of things, not just me being afraid of if my art's going to do well or not. I think it's the whole string and network of if will I have the money to support this? Will my passions always be there for this? Is it worth my
Yeah, sure. So it kind of sounds like this ongoing cycle of
time?
like there is this inspiration to create, there
Hmm.
is this passion to branch out and build upon your small business, but then there's also perhaps the stress or just the fact that you don't know how it's going to turn out once you
Hmm.
put all this effort.
Totally. It's all out of my control, which I wanted to ask you, like, what is a good thing to do? Because I've come to a point where I don't know, I wouldn't say fight or flight in this sense because it's art, but
Mhm.
I've come to this like freeze or function kind of mentality where I will create art and be like, I don't care, I'm making this and it makes me feel happy, even if I don't post it. Or I've become, on like the polar end of that, would be like, I am so fearful or overwhelmed with all of the networks of things that I have to figure out for my art to be a side business that I just don't do anything of. What would you recommend when I kind of get in that frozen state?
So, what I would like to ask is can you sort of describe this frozen state and
Mm,
maybe what sort of leads up to that frozen
mm.
state?
Well, it usually starts with how much I have on my schedule, I would say, because I think my art that I can put in towards the side business happens when I have my most free time. So when I get to that point, I'm creating for myself and I'm putting things out there that could potentially make me money, but I do know that I have a checklist of things that are actually like I'm very responsible outside of this passion. I've got to do my job. I've got to do things to pay my bills that I think potentially I'm carrying in that energy like into every step that I don't know. I think I would say maybe I'm freezing because I'm just expanding on this never ending cycle of things that are, this is freaking me out before I can do this next step to get started. And it's just this going back to what I was saying earlier of like, I do this in my free time. I create art in my free time. But when I'm creating it, I get those like intrusive thoughts of, but also right now you need to do this to pay your bills. And also right now it's more important that you focus on your job. Or right now it's more important that you do things that are immediately more uh I'm more responsible for, which yeah, I am responsible for them, but I won't reap any consequence if I don't deal with them today. It's just the anxiety of never having a clean slate to work on what I want to, if that makes sense.
Sure. And just in regards to those like intrusive thoughts, is
Mhm.
that, would you say that's more so like while you're creating an
Mhm.
artwork or like you're working on a specific art piece,
Mhm.
you're creating and then these intrusive thoughts of you could be doing this other project or make sure to add these elements so that way you can retain some sort of target audience? How would you
A little
say?
bit of that. It's kind of more of like the before and after, I'd say. Like before I do a project, say I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I want to do this for myself today. It's in that time before I start the activity that I'm like, well, maybe I shouldn't even be doing this. Maybe I should be spending this time of my day to do something that I deem as more important. Or even after, like maybe I'm almost finished with the project and I'm like, I could work on this for hours longer. But then that idea of you need to use your time wisely and you need to do things you're responsible for. Sometimes I cut my project short. Don't let them keep living on. I just say, hey, I'm done. It's all the time I had for, and it can be kind of limiting.
Right. So there's this discrepancy between your natural, innate, like desire to be creative and to create art
Mm-hmm.
uh, in a way that feels natural to you, that's not forced.
Mm-hmm.
And yet there's also this uh, compelling, intrusive drive to it's almost like an alarm system of like, wait, hold on, like you need to make sure that you're secure, make sure that what you're doing is also profitable, so that way you can be able to sort of well profit off of what it is
Mm-hmm.
that you're making.
Definitely, yeah. Because for a while, it does feel like it's just kind of been the satisfaction that I've been writing off of. It's like
Right.
I've created something and it's gone well. I don't have the business success behind it that's like, this is something I should wake up and do every day. It's more of me being like, what I do makes me happy, and that's what motivates me to keep doing it. So it's weird finding myself in that and not knowing if I always do it out of the incentive of this makes me feel motivated because it makes me feel happy, or doing it out of discipline could be even the next step. I'm not really sure as an artist how I should form that relationship so that it's not always just I do this on a whim when I feel passion, or I only do this under certain circumstances. That may be.
Right. So it seems like there's a sort of disconnect between, like we were just discussing,
Mhm,
doing something naturally when you feel
mhm,
inspired to versus having the self discipline where you're sticking to a set time or set schedule, maybe
mhm,
of, all right, within this time frame, I have to get this done
mhm.
and meet all these criteria that will make me feel safe knowing that it's profitable. Would you say that's accurate?
I would say so. It just seems like it's not always a linear path, so I can't
Right.
say like, yes, that's the solution. But that is a better mindset than what I kind of walked into. I don't know. I think I could still end up getting in that frozen state of being overwhelmed. I don't think I'm going to walk away and be cured from this with a new idea. But I think having that concept that I can carry with me, that it's not all entirely responsible at this moment, and that I don't have to have a completely clear slate in order to create something.
Right.
Like that isn't guilt I need to carry at all for any of that. It's cool.
Right. So, how would you say that you are just as successful in your artwork and also the business aspect of it as well, included in that, when you're happy and inspired? Or
Mm.
would you say that occurs only when you're disciplined? Or have you noticed that it occurs during both different moods?
I would say probably both because I mean, doing that kind of work, it's not all fun and games. Like
Right.
making the art is always fun. I love to do that, and that's what keeps me passionate about all of this and
Right.
having something completed to look at the end. But then you have to go into the business side. You have to learn about taxes and posting your sales and making sure everything's correct in that sense. So you have to have a sense of discipline with the fun because I mean, like I could draw a million pictures in the world, but I would probably not find the day where I'd sit down and have fun on a computer figuring out the taxes for
Right.
them.
Right. So let me ask you this. You talk about, that. So what we've established so far is that, you're an artist. You want to build upon your small business.
Mhm,
You want to maintain your authenticity as an artist,
mhm,
and you also want to honor the business financial aspects of this endeavor.
mhm.
How could you see these two different mindsets of inspiration and doing things naturally and authentically?
Mhm.
How could you see that being balanced or combined with the more disciplined aspect of it.
As in, like, how could I improve on my workflow through using discipline?
Well, more in the sense of, so we know that you've achieved success from projects that were purely inspirational,
Hmm.
purely from an intuitive standpoint,
Hmm.
and you've also received success from projects where you were more disciplined compared to your more inspired, intuitive driven projects.
Hmm.
How do you think that you could combine?
The passion and the discipline.
Right.
Um, that's something I've tried to work on, and that's why I asked about like messaging and trying to come out truthfully in what I create because that is the core. I want people to look at it, feel a reflection of what I was emoting into my work. You know, if I make something that makes me feel like this is the most beautiful day in the world, I want people to look at it and also feel that euphoric sense of this is beautiful and the world is beautiful. So kind of honing in on the discipline of it, of having a specific message that I want to tell the world or share with the people that will see it, and using then the passion and the love I have for what I do to bring the talent in. And it sounds easy saying that out loud, but I haven't been able to necessarily like create the most streamlined way to be like, I want to tell someone that I think this is a beautiful day in the world, and then create something that I'm like, this tells it, and people are going to feel that way. I don't know necessarily how to land on a easy way to just tell my message through my artwork. I think I have to keep expanding and trying different varieties of art and messaging and all that. But yeah, I think it takes both discipline and the passion for what I do to kind of successfully talk to my audience or connect to the people that like what I do.
Right. And what do you believe it would look like for you to address certain messages you can share with this target audience that do inspire you? You have the
Mm,
choice in the messages you select for your artwork.
totally. Um, I don't know. I think I want to always spread positivity in what I do because I think there's just so much noise in the world that I don't know. I kind of want, if I produce any noise at all, or if people get to feel impacted by my work, that it's kind of showing the beauty of the world that we live in, the beauty of our lives, and like the opportunity of life. You know, I kind of want to show people that like there's always something happening good, and there's always something positive to share, and look introspectively.
Okay, so then it would seem like as long as your message sort of reflects
Mhm.
various aspects of what you just said, that life is always beautiful, life can always be inspiring, that you're on a pretty good trajectory to receive good results from that.
Mhm. That makes sense. Yeah. And it's like not always the same feeling too, and that's something hard to balance too in my art of not that I won't feel that way every day, but maybe I don't feel it as strongly as the day before, or maybe I'm making art out of a place of heartbreak, or maybe I'm making art out of a completely different emotion that isn't always that sense, but kind of staying true to myself and exploring these feelings because a lot of art is figuring out like I've never done this before, or I feel a certain way, kind of like counseling. I feel a certain way and I want to dive into that feeling without expectations of what I want this art to look like at the end. I just want to understand what's going on inside of myself, or what's going on inside of these feelings, which is cool. But back to the beginning, it's like there's different messages that I can go in with my art, and I want to make sure that that all is always in line with the same good messaging, right? To keep true to myself and kind of make sure that I'm connecting to my audience in an authentic kind of way that I've always stood for and staying true for what I believe in.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, it seems like we've covered a lot of ground with kind of working on a strategy for
mhm,
you to be able to authentically be able to continue to build upon your small business,
mhm,
maintaining authenticity to your message,
mhm,
and also finding a way to make sure that it's a message that is universal that people can relate to and really
mhm,
enjoy.
definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's a good place for us to stop today.
Thank
So
you.
I appreciate you for sharing all this,
Yeah.
Levi, and I look forward to our next session.
Thank you so much. Me too, of course.